guys hungry? Are you hungry? Get back. Get back. What's hungry? Who's hungry puppies? Huh? Yeah, are you hungry? Get back. Sit. 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 Relax. Get back. Ruby. That's Ruby. She likes to eat. Look at her cute jacket. You happy, Ruby? How about you, Gundy? Happy? So, came out to the hot springs last night. Have the campsite to myself. Well, somebody came in late last night, but I had the campsite to myself. Down there's the hot springs are down there by the river. Last night I had it to myself for quite a while. Look at it way out there. Girl? Who's your good girl? Huh? Who's your good girl? There's times when I sit at home and I think about going out camping, and there's a part of me that like just wants to stay in order, you know, wants to stay away from the chaos of driving out in the woods and starting a fire. It might rain, might this, might that, and it's easy for us to fall into that order place. When you go out into nature, you're stepping out a foot into chaos, because you never know what you're gonna run into, or who you're going to run into. And I think that this is our best way for us to follow the flow of God, is to get out in nature. When we get those feelings in our head that we need to get out there, we need to follow that instead of thinking about all the things, how hard it's going to be, you know, I got to load the wood, I got to do this, got to do that. You know, it's so worth it when you just kind of load your stuff up and just go and don't even think about it. The thinking is what makes us go towards order rather than chaos. The chaos you have to have more faith in, and you got to just go for it, right? And yeah, it was quite cold this morning. Getting the fire going, it's probably about 2 degrees. And crawling out of bed, and the puppies didn't want to get out of bed, and I realized too this is why Canadians love dogs even more than probably other places, because they're little heaters for our beds when we go camping or when we go hunting or whatever these things we do are. And have a little furnace on each side of you in your bed, but in the night you feel pretty warm, I'll tell you that much. You know, and I think about the world today, and a lot of what the Spirit is teaching is to follow just nature. So like, is to always be in the moment and be at peace, and try not to like worry about the future or the past or any of those kind of things. And when you do that, you don't realize is that you're not developing yourself in a sense. Like we have to we have to speak to know who we are. And a lot of us, when we're in the spirit of the mother, which is just being in the moment and at peace, and a lot of people can get really good at that with their yoga and meditation and breath work and all these kind of things that can get them back to the moment. And that spirit is easy spirit to get along with, let's say. the mother is going to love you for what you are. And then but if you want more order in your life and want to become more than what you are, and to truly become the virtue of the masculine spirit, it's going to push you to be better. It's going to let you know that you're not as good as you can be. And that's sometimes not the easiest message to get. And when you bring in the spirit of the Father, which is more, let's say, analytical, or one that makes judgments upon how we go forward in the future based on things in the past. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to look back to the past because my trauma's back there. Well, the truth is we have to go back to the past to find a new way to perceive our trauma so we can get past it. And getting past it means not forgetting it, but always remembering it, so that if situations come up that trigger that trauma in us, we can be like, oh, I know where that comes from, and then you don't have to react to that anymore. And so I think a lot of counselors and psychologists play the mother archetype more than the father, because that keeps their clients coming in the door. It's easier to bring somebody at peace with like a big hug and telling them they're fine and it's everybody else and not them and all that stuff. That's a good way to keep clients, but is that really what brings that person to their higher power? And paternal counselor is likely gonna, the people that are gonna allow a paternal counselor are the ones that are ready for it. And most people aren't. And so we have to know how to be maternal and paternal. So we have to be able to hold them and hold that space and let them vent until they get to a point where they're released a bunch of tension. So when they are triggered, it's not an explosion, you know, because they're stretched out elastic bands. And when they start to speak and you just hold them and let them, you be the receiver and there you can be the transmitter, you'll see that elastic band just come together and relax. And then maybe it won't be the first few times you see it, maybe it won't even be the first 10 times you talk to them, but maybe by the 11th time you can start to point out, hey, what are the things that you could do that can make sure this doesn't happen to you again? Or what are the things that you did that were a part of getting you in that situation? What are the things we can do to push you forward? And like let's like make some lists. Let's do some things like let's be harsh. Let's critique ourselves, because that's the paternal counselor is the one that is going to trigger your shadow, and that's the best thing, because for us to get into our powers, we have to know the darkest sides of ourselves. And so when you're around somebody that's very paternal and they're going to push on your trauma, that's the whole point of it, is because you need to be triggered a little bit. You need to like have releases. You need to go through these things. Somebody needs to start saying things so that you can go through them, so then you can start to heal. And that the messenger, a lot of people shoot the messenger. And that's why a lot of psychologists that are 60, 70 grand into debt by the time they're out of school, and they have to charge people $200 an hour, and they don't want to say too hard of a truth because they might lose their client, and then if they lose their client, then they can't pay their bills. See, all of that stuff, it's like having a priest working to pay the bills of the church rather than working to pay the bills of the heart of all the people in the room. And anytime a church starts to give up morality and starts to make a highway to hell rather than a stairway to heaven, then I know it's a business rather than truly trying to help people. And sometimes I believe that when we are over maternal, and we're always maternal, we just like coddle them in what they are and wrap them in bubble wrap, then we're actually causing more harm than good. Because we can't just tell people they're good the way they are, because they're going to keep running into themselves over and over again. You know, so a lot of people you know, there's a lot of, like, say, the new age is all on the maternal, and these people are feeling at peace, so they're like, wow, I must be connected to God because look, I'm at peace, because they learned to get them into the moment, but they haven't actually confronted any of their dragons. And then when they run into somebody that confronts their dragon, they're going to attack rather than be like, whoa, wow, I can feel that inside myself, and that's, wow, that's that thing I dealt with. But the maternal spirit hasn't dealt with the dragons. So I don't know if, like, the maternal spiritual person really is as... if you've only seen the maternal side of a spiritual person, it's hard for us to know how virtuous that person really is. Virtue comes from the truth. Virtue comes from always the person that will always speak the truth regardless of outcome. That shows virtue. That's courageous, right? And that's one of the paternal things, is courage. You know? The maternal wants to bring people in, and because of that, the maternal can, if you have very maternal, let's say, guidelines, then there isn't much guidelines. That's the whole point. There is no rules. There's no regiments, right? And a world with too much regiment is like us tied up, we're slaves, right? But then a world with too much chaos means, like, all the crazy people in the world that have no laws against them will just, it's chaos on both ends of things, right? And that's why, you know, God once told me that, go take a look at your name, and then you'll understand. And I was like, what does that mean? So I went up and I looked up what Patrick means, and obviously there's Saint Patrick, and he chased the snakes out of Ireland, and I believe that snakes are both benevolent and malevolent, and in this case I think Saint Patrick chased out some, probably by accident, some benevolent snakes too, but because of association, but probably mostly malevolent snakes. But the actual name and what it means comes from paternal, Patrick, so it's a father of the people. And so I was like, wow, I've always been that guy that speaks truth to all my friends, and like they haven't liked that, and they'll go off into their little crew and make me the black sheep, and that brings them closer together, and they get to drink together and be completely maternal, and with nobody like saying, hey guys, like, take care of each other, take care of yourselves. Nobody's saying that. And it's funny that compassion is misunderstood, and instead is thought of as, wow, I don't want to be around that person. And that's often when people are not ready to work on themselves, and you start to point at things that they need to work on, they're going to run away from you and go hang out with people that enable them towards those things that you're pointing out. And that's what I've seen a lot in the past. And so be it. It is what it is, you know. I was talking to this guy after church for about an hour, and we had an amazing session. He did some amazing work with a guy there that was suffering, and we started to talk after, and I started to talk about, like, should I just be putting a hand in and letting them do the work and come and grab my hand? He said to me, he's like, you know what, sometimes you have to dive right in to some gross situations to try to bring people out, and I'm like that, but I do try to. A lot of people will draw the line at where is it pearls upon swine? When am I just casting my words to the garbage, right? And I myself, I want to push that boundary. I'd rather say a little too much than not enough. And you know, I have patience, and I have the ability, so I can say too much even if they don't have the ears to hear. And I don't have to get frustrated about it anymore. I'm starting to get rid of that kind of trauma in my life. You know, there's times in my life where I was like, 1 + 1 = what? 1 + 1 = what? And they would just be so emotional that they wouldn't answer the question as an example, right? And I'm like, it's a simple equation. I get like angry because I want to be understood that it's this simple, and because the person's in emotions, nothing is simple anymore. and nothing's about logic or reason. And I'm like, because I didn't understand that, I was like, are you kidding? And then I would get emotional that the person couldn't understand the simple thing I'm trying to say because they're emotional, and then it's like a snowball going downhill. So now I'm getting better at not needing people to understand. And a lot of them understand, they won't admit it. So sometimes we have to cast the light into the darkest places, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it's going to be absorbed or seen, you know. So because psychologists and counselors need to pay bills, they're likely going to be more maternal. So that means more of us need to be paternal. More of us need to be the person that comes in and says the thing that is going to probably chase the person away, but they needed to hear it. And we have to, that's the hero's journey of like giving up all outcome or necessity to, you love a person, so you don't want to chase them away, right? Because you want them in your life. But then you know that because of that, if you're just enabling them by never pointing out something you know you could help them with, you're enabling them to keep doing that thing in their life, then you're doing that for yourself. It's selfish. You're doing that so you can still have that person in your life, so you can be held close to that person because you love them. When you know the truth will set them free, and instead of you speaking that, you just coddle them in their sickness. And to me, if you're doing that, it's selfish, and that's the Dark Mother. The Dark Mother is, you know, not giving the person the information they need when you know you have it, so that you can keep them close. The Light Mother wants to fortify their child so that they're independent, so they can go out in the world and survive. And unfortunately, not a lot of people talk about the Dark Mother, so we don't even know what it is. But once we make it conscious, people will start to notice when they're doing it, and then maybe they'll stop, and then we'll stop traumatizing children or sending people into the world that have no ability to take care of themselves. I'm gonna play a little drums for you now. Thanks for joining me again. If you enjoy what I'm doing and enjoy the messages I'm speaking, hit the subscribe and like button, share. The algorithms work that way. That's can be your payment. It's always free here, but all it takes is a little click to get the message out there. And that's the payment to me. Is the more people that hear these messages, the better. So much love and God bless.